Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back. We are here today with Matt Heinz. If you have been living under a rock and don't know who Matt Heinz is, he is the president of Heinz Marketing. Matt, how you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to chat with you today, Matt. We're going to be talking really about how do we measure the impact of content on sales pipeline, contribution, and conversion. I love your take on this. We had you on B2B Growth a while back, and the way you think about marketing, I think, is so in line with how I think marketers in general should be thinking about it. Unfortunately, they're not, or a lot of them aren't. And so I'm stoked to dive into this. Before we do, though, Matt, can you explain what is Heinz Marketing? What are you guys all about?
Sure. Yeah, we are a small B2B consulting firm based out of Seattle. I usually describe us as sales pipeline people. You know, we're a bunch of marketers that think in terms of revenue, pipeline, sales contribution to the organization. One of our directors has said, you can't buy a beer with a marketing qualified lead. And that's very true. So although marketers continue to be focused on leads and content, and a lot of what marketers have always done, the goal is not leads. The goal is not pipeline contribution. The goal is close deals. So working closely with the sales organization, realigning the way marketing thinks about their objectives and their focus is a big part of what we do.
I love it. So Matt, I just want to dive right into this stuff. As we were talking offline, you said that the first thing that we should cover in this session is really mapping content to the buyer's journey. Can you unpack that for us a bit?
Yeah. I think a lot of organizations do two things wrong. One, they have a sales process that's mapped to their internal sales stages and has nothing to do with the way the buyers buy. And so that affects both sales and marketing and their ability to create rapport and connection and momentum with their prospects. But maybe more importantly, I think a lot of marketers only market to the first half of the pipeline. They market to prospects to the point until they actually, become a lead perhaps and go off to the sales organization, and then they're done. And if they're doing anything beyond that point, they're providing sell sheets and it's sales collateral. So, you're not doing anything if you're doing that as a marketer to help the sales team close more deals, to increase the conversion rate of your leads.
Yeah.
So I think a big mistake for marketers is only creating that content at the top of the funnel, not thinking about the entire customer-centric buyer journey. You do both of those things better, and the impact you're going to have on closed deals will raise significantly.
So can you maybe give some examples, or just so folks can kind of get their head around, because I think you're totally on point here, that most marketers create content up to the point where it's passed off to sales, and then it's like, okay, I'm done. I did my part.
Yeah.
What are some proactive things that they can do, like real tangible things they can get their head around to actually take it all the way through to the point of it closing?
Yeah. Well, when at the beginning of the buying process, you're helping the prospect challenge their own status quo. You're helping them commit to a change for themselves. And just because they've done that before they're interested in looking at your product doesn't mean you can't and shouldn't reinforce that message over time. And I think too often, sales professionals, well-meaning sales professionals will focus 95% of their message on the product and service and what it does. Here's our features. Here's the benefit of that feature. And they fail to go back and reinforce the why. They fail to go back and reinforce the commitment to change that the prospect has made for themselves, for their own outcomes, for their own objectives that got them there. So helping the sales organization reiterate that message in a variety of formats is critical. I also look at the proposal process, right? Think about the impact marketing can have throughout this. You get to the proposal and statement of work section. Oftentimes that is very product centric. It just describes what you're about to deliver, physically deliver in many cases, to the prospect. There are people in the organization, in many cases likely decision makers, check signers, that are going to learn about you for the first time in that statement of work. And if all they think you're doing is delivering widgets, then the likelihood that they're going to question things that you've already answered, the likelihood that they're going to try to squeeze you on price and treat you like a commodity goes up significantly. So the need to continue to reinforce the why at every stage. My favorite statements of work begin with the very beginning of the sales pitch again. They go back to the why. They reinforce the objectives that the buyer had in the first place. So again, like there's 1,000 examples of this where, the just under-leveraged opportunities to reinforce value, to continue that same line of communication that's customer-centric, all the way through until someone actually signs on the dotted line. Every one of those moments is an opportunity to increase conversion and therefore increase marketing's measured contribution to those closed deals.
And so, Matt, would you say that should that be done within marketing automation, like segmenting folks that have made it to that part of the buyer's journey and then baking that in to where it's automated, or is that a much more manual process?
Well, some of it can certainly be automated. I think most organizations aren't using their marketing automation platform nearly to the extent that it should be. But this isn't just a marketing automation exercise. I mean, maybe we should have called this the 8 mistakes, because I feel like we keep going through them. I think another mistake a lot of marketers make is, when they want to solve one of these problems, they say, well, let's put it into Marketo, right? Mm-hmm. And look, I mean, marketing automation platforms can do a lot for you, but don't forget the offline world. Don't forget empowering your sales team with the right talking points. It's not just, well, here's some collateral and here's emails in your email system. Your prospects are on the phone. They're in the field. They're at trade shows. They're at events with your prospects on a regular basis. How do you ensure they're having that right conversation as well? If you can maintain consistency of that buyer-centric message across all channels, I mean, we're talking a little bit about sales enablement here now, right? Which is a lot about content, but it's a lot about the right content at the right place at the right time. So, I mean, your marketing automation system can measure activity. It can help get a precise message in front of someone. Your ability to score and measure and watch activity may very well inform what drip campaign should go next, but it should also inform what live conversations your sales team's having with the prospect next as well.
That segues us into the next part of the conversation that, as you and I were talking offline, Matt, you said that if you want to measure the impact of content on pipeline contribution and conversion, you've got to have full alignment with sales. I've heard a lot of people talk about, you got to align with sales. Can you go deep on this? Like, what does that look like? How do you actually make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of people say, well, we're just going to start sitting in meetings together and, we're going to start, getting together more often. I was like, well, that really doesn't do anything unless you're actually working towards the right goals and the same goals. Two simple things, that any organization could do. One is start from the same set of math. Very few organizations have lead volume and lead goals that actually map to the sales goals. So literally one pipeline, right? I mean, you've got the number of deals you need to hit. You've got the size of the pipeline that needs to get there. And then you've got the number of leads that feed into that pipeline. Now you can make it more complicated than that, but most organizations haven't even gotten that far. So start with the same metrics. And then work towards the same definitions. What is a lead? What is an opportunity? What does it mean to be a qualified opportunity in our pipeline? What does it mean to have a lead that is ready for sales? Most organizations, and most marketing organizations that finally work with sales to better define those end up with a much stricter, much tighter definition for a qualified lead than they had before. But that's beautiful, because now if you've got the sales organization that agrees to that, the goal is not to generate more leads to the sales team. The goal is to generate the right leads to the sales organization, right? And so making sure that you've got those definitions in place is critical. And finally, a common understanding of the buyer, right? Again, we talked earlier about sort of the sales process that typically is, well, I got to get someone into the demo, and then I got to get, capabilities presentation. Now, that may be your process, but what is the buyer's process? What is your buyer's process that they're going through, and how do you ensure that both sales and marketing agree on the steps and the messages that are appropriate at each of those stages? If you can get that done successfully and get those three things in place, that's foundational. I mean, there's lots of other stuff you can do to make this more complicated, but just those three things will get you a long ways.
I love it. And this last piece that we're going to touch on, Matt, before I let you go, is in speaking to the marketer, the marketer has to be able to measure themselves on full funnel value. And this goes back to, I think, a little bit what we talked about at the top of the interview, but talk to us about what this means.
Yeah, I mean, for me, we've covered this a lot. I always feel like a broken record, but like you said before, there's a lot of marketers just haven't really bought off on this yet. I think, too many marketers focus on an operational dashboard. When they measure their value, they look at, well, here's, how many leads I generated. Here's how many clicks we got. Here's how many retweets we have. Here's the open and click rates on our emails. It's like, as a marketer, you have to optimize all those metrics, but those metrics don't matter. My rule of thumb is if you have to explain what you're measuring to the CFO, then you're showing him the wrong things. If you start to use the CFO's language in your reporting, then you're focusing on the right things.
Got it.
There's a difference between your operational dashboard and your executive dashboard. Your operational dashboard helps you be better marketers, helps improve the performance of your operational marketing. But the output of that needs to be things that the business cares about. If you want to be perceived in marketing as a profit center, if you want people to take you seriously, and if you want to break the notion that marketing is just the arts and crafts department, then you have to speak the language of the business and speak the language of your CFO. She will love you for it. The entire business will appreciate, even if you can't measure everything precisely. Right? The sophistication of most of our B2B marketing is outpacing our ability to completely accurately measure it. Right? And so there's a lot of great tools on the market that are helping to bridge that gap, and that's fine. But for me, intent is the first step for organizations, right? Know that your goal is not marketing qualified leads. Your goal is closed deals, and work towards that.
Matt, if there's somebody that wants to stay connected with you or they want to learn more about Heinz Marketing, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Yeah, everything's just tied to, Heinz Marketing. It's Heinz like the ketchup marketing. You can find us online, HeinzMarketing.com, on Twitter at Heinz Marketing. I'm Matt, M-A-T-T, at HeinzMarketing.com. We publish stuff on our blog every day and try to share some good sales and marketing advice on our Twitter feed. So yeah, happy to talk to anyone that has any questions.
Awesome, Matt. Well, thank you so much for your time today, man. This has been super helpful, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you or someone you know would be an incredible guest for the B2B Growth Show, email me at jonathan@sweetfishmedia.com. Let us know. We love connecting with B2B executives, and we love sharing their wisdom and perspective with our audience.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.